Transparency. We need transparency in order to deal with this current situation. So by now you've undoubtedly heard that right in the beginning, a number of people were arrested for spreading rumors when they first tried to discuss the fact that there was a new virus going around in China. Turns out these people were all doctors. And we're going to talk about one doctor in particular. And his name is Li Wenliang. Now, I have a screenshot here from the doctors group that he was in. And he basically said, you know, guys, coming out of this seafood market, there are 7 cases of SARS. He actually says SARS. And then he shows like an X-ray or an MRI scan of a lung to basically show the respiratory issues. And he's like, you know, don't spread this around, but, you know, take care of your family, etc., etc. And he even mentions that this is a coronavirus. And then he gets invited, as we say, to tea by the police. Now, if we take a look at this document here from the police station, it's actually quite ridiculous. It's like a written warning. And at the end of it, you can see they actually write, you know, if you continue to, you know, do these illegal spreading of rumors, then you're going to face the full brunt of the law. Do you understand? And then he says, I understand, written there with his fingerprint on it, etc. Now, because he's a doctor, and of course they need doctors in this dire situation, he went back to work. And on the 8th of January, after contact with the patient, he actually contracted the virus and has been in the ICU under intensive care since the 24th of January, where he still continues to fight for his life. Now, this is one of the 8 doctors who were arrested for so-called spreading rumors in the beginning. You see, this is what we're dealing with here. We are dealing with a situation where professional doctors are being silenced and arrested and forced to sign stupid little written warnings in order to prevent the spreading of truth. There's a lot of misinformation and nonsense going on at the moment, deflections and diversions that are trying to justify why the Chinese government dealt with the virus the way it did, or why this isn't as bad as people make it out to be. And all of it is very detrimental to the well-being and safety of everybody, not just in China, but the whole world. Whataboutism is the first thing I'm going to talk about. Ever since releasing any information about this coronavirus, I have been inundated with comments telling me that it's not serious. Oh, American people die of the flu. 80,000 people died in America of the flu. But this coronavirus only killed 100 and something people. It's not that serious. Bullshit. Now, this is the biggest worry to me, is that people are now relaxing. They're playing it down. It's not a big deal. More people die of the flu. Let me first of all dispel these myths. The flu is something that we know how to deal with. We have vaccines for the flu. The flu is a worldwide phenomenon. Every country knows about the flu. Every country is prepared to deal with the flu. The flu is also something very different to the coronavirus. The number of people that have to be hospitalized and put into ICU because of the flu is a very small percentage to the same amount of people that have to be hospitalized and put into the ICU for the coronavirus. This is what's going to be the big problem the world will have to deal with if it gets out of hand. But let's talk about the numbers. People keep throwing this thing about, oh, in China, there's so few deaths from flu. That is also bullshit. In fact, China has a much larger number when it comes to deaths related to flu. But I asked my wife, because she's a Chinese doctor, I asked her, why is it that China only reports 43 or 53 deaths a year from flu? But in the rest of the world, we see these massive numbers, like in America, 50,000, 80,000 a year. And, well, she explained it to me very simply. When somebody goes to the hospital in China with a complication, let's say heart disease or pneumonia or, you know, any other ailment, and they contract the flu, which then exacerbates that ailment and eventually leads to death. On the death certificate, they will write down the cause of death as heart disease or pneumonia or whatever that pre-existing condition was, not as death from the flu. However, in countries like America, if somebody goes in, they have a pre-existing condition, but they die due to complications brought on by the flu, on their death certificate it will be written, death due to complications brought on by influenza. And so it's marked down as a death caused by flu. That's why we have such high numbers. And in China, there are almost no numbers when it comes to deaths. So this whole idea of, oh, it's worse in America and it's okay in China is a bunch of bollocks anyway, because the numbers of deaths due to flu in China, although we don't have the actual numbers, is without a doubt vastly higher than in the rest of the world due to the large population. That's not the point though. These people trying to spread this misinformation are actually doing a disservice to everyone by making them feel that it's okay, that they can relax. It's not that serious. The next problem is that anyone who talks about this or tries to bring up the severity of the situation, because right now we're dealing with a big misinformation campaign from the Chinese government, and at the same time we're dealing with unscrupulous scammers, Daigou, which are parallel traders, and various, how can we say, opportunists who are taking advantage of the pain and suffering of the Chinese people at the moment by selling them fake masks, reused masks, heavily marked up masks. All of this stuff needs to be exposed and talked about. But if you talk about the very, very real things that are demonstrably proven, you are labeled a racist if you are not Chinese. There's a phenomenon in China, something that I'm all too familiar with. When I talk about real societal issues, the sort of issues that affect everyone in China, my wife, my Chinese family, my Chinese friends, clients and co-workers, even other foreigners in China, be it shortcomings of public hygiene, traffic, fake medicine, pollution, kidnapping, human trafficking, you name it, I'm immediately attacked by Chinese nationalists and apologists, trying to deflect and dilute the truths of what I say through whataboutism and accusations of racism. You see, Chinese society as a whole has been shaped through education and government programs to react in a knee-jerk manner. They are taught that foreigners are the root of all problems through years of past humiliation, etc., and that if a foreigner says something bad about China, you are to take that as a personal attack against you and your entire nation. You are told that foreigners can never understand China because they're not Chinese, as if somehow the color of your skin magically imbues you with secret knowledge and understanding. Now that's racist, if you ask me. This is why, when logic and reason is presented by a foreigner, it will be answered with hate, personal attacks, attempted character assassination, and cries of racism. If a Chinese person presents the same logic and reason, he is either taken seriously or arrested by the government for disrupting the harmony of society, because the government knows that Chinese people will be forced to consider his words rather than just dismiss him as another racist foreigner. The disinformation within China is so great and the level of insulation so severe that you have Chinese people going online and stating absolute mistruths as fact.
Chinese don't eat dogs.
That is a lie.
It is illegal to eat wild animals in China.
That is also a lie.
So I want to clarify that Chinese people don't eat dogs.
That is a lie. How is it that people can be so ignorant about their own country? Is it racist to say that Chinese people eat dogs? No, it is merely factual. Chinese people do in fact eat dogs. There's a dog meat festival once a year, for heaven's sake.
Chinese don't eat dogs.
I've personally seen and filmed hundreds of dog meat restaurants. There are dog meat restaurants in Beijing, the capital, Shanghai, and every single city in China, north, south, east, west, and central.
Dogs are our good friends, and we will certainly not hurt them, let alone to eat them.
The fact is that hundreds of millions of Chinese people do eat dog. But is it racist to call random Chinese people dog eaters? Yes, I would say so. And although racism is perhaps not the correct term to use here, it is still very nasty and discriminatory.
To show your racism.
The majority of Chinese people I know do not eat dogs. However, I do know many Chinese people that do eat dogs. Is it racist to say French people eat snails, escargot? No, it's factual. But to call a French person a snail eater is not cool. I think you understand my point. We are facing a massive problem here at the moment. And of course, this is going to lead to uncomfortable situations, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't act accordingly. You see, if the roles were reversed and it was the coronavirus coming out of America, it would be very difficult to identify who is American and who isn't, because America's got such a diverse society. You've got black people, brown people, yellow people, green people, whatever kind of people. So if you see someone on the street of your country, you wouldn't be able to point at them and say, he's American, because, like I said, it's difficult to prove. However, because you only get Chinese people in China, it's very easy to point to an Asian person and guess that they could perhaps be Chinese. And this is, of course, leading to a lot of uncomfortable situations where people are seeing an Asian person, no matter if they're from Thailand or Japan or wherever it is, and immediately presuming that they could possibly carrying this coronavirus. Now, this is what we want to try and avoid. But at the same time, we should not be so stupid as to avoid taking precautions. If you are living in an Asian area where there are a lot of Asian people, or if you go and visit Asian supermarkets where you know that there's a possibility that people traveling to and from China recently could be shopping there or going there or studying there or whatever the case, you should take extra precaution. You should wear a mask. You should wash your hands more. It's not racist, it's common sense. If you put yourself and your families at danger just because you are afraid of being labeled a racist, you are a fool. By the same token, I do not condone and I do not want to see people being discriminatory and nasty and racist towards people of Asian ethnicity. It's not fair. We have to take precaution, but don't automatically distance yourself from someone just because they're Asian. Be smart. Treat people with respect. Let's fight this thing together, and let's educate everybody together. Go out, protect yourself, protect your family. I'll see you next time. Stay awesome.